What is your one singular goal? So I see huge power and have experienced huge power in not having 5 or 10 goals for the year, or more importantly, for in a business, not having a whole bunch of things we're working on, just focusing on one thing. For Facebook, for a number of years, it was growth. That was it. For Amazon, it was growth. In fact, for many companies, it's growth. My recommendation is only focus yourself and your company on one thing at a time. So this especially works well for your business, because if you have a team, then this can become part of every person in the team's focus. And there's huge power in having everyone in the company looking at these things. There are things that you have not even thought of that your team's going to come up with. If it's just you, it can become your driving focus in your life, in your work. Now, I want to make a special note here. This is not that thing that somehow became popular lately. We don't work on goals anymore. We have a word for the year. As you can tell, I'm not a huge fan of that. This is not that, okay? This is simplifying focus on one smart goal. Now, I also sort of dislike the cliche factor of smart, but it makes sense here. A goal that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So this is not just a word. This is not connection or anything else like that. This is, hey, we are going to grow our list by at least $5,000 by May 31st. 5,000 people, sorry. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, we're going to sell 200 seats to our live event by May 15th. We're going to find $20,000 in cost reductions by April 15th. We're going to develop an ad campaign in a funnel to sell whatever that product is at least break even by June 15th. Each one of these is a powerful focus goal that if you focus on that, and especially because each one of these things has realizations that you and every other person on your team realize that if you achieve that goal, it's going to make a whole bunch of other goals automatically occur. So the other good things you want to have in your business, more profit, more sales of X product, happen when you get 200 more people into your live event, happen when you sell 500 copies of this thing at least break even, because then you know you've got the back end revenue that can come from that. What ends up happening in this is the dominant thought process. So let's take this for just a moment and talk about your brain, your conscious brain and your subconscious. Okay, so your conscious brain makes decisions. It makes things happen. Your subconscious brain is the part of the brain that has access to the entire hard drive of everything that's ever happened in your life, every experience you've ever had, everything you've ever seen, and everything, all kinds of things that your conscious mind probably never even noticed, but it's there in your subconscious brain. So one of the ways you tap into that is this concept called the dominant thought theory. And what you do is what you are thinking about as your dominant thought, your subconscious sees that as a mission to go and fulfill. So if you're working on the dominant thought of, how do I get my child to not just sit around and watch TV all day long? Okay. So then your subconscious mind goes off and it starts working on that, and it keeps coming back with ideas. Now, some of those ideas are going to be bad because the subconscious mind has no filter that says whether something is good or not. So the subconscious mind may come back with, just kill them. And it's like, no, can't do that. Okay. So the subconscious mind goes, okay, I'll go work on it. And it comes back with another idea. And as long as you continue to reward the subconscious mind by considering it, by taking action, either rejecting or approving, and doing those things, what happens is your subconscious mind gets trained to give you more and better solutions to your problems. And what ends up happening is this thing that I'm talking about just in your brain works in a company too. So I remember a time when I was involved with the company, and it was a brand, and our goal was to increase market share on this brand by 20%, which is unheard of in marketing. Okay. But that was the entire goal, from everybody from sales to production to research to marketing, of course, leadership. Everyone had that. And what ended up happening was the subconscious mind. I literally had a janitor walk up to me one night. I'm on my way out of the building. I was the last one out of the building. And the janitor walks up to me and he goes, "You're the brand manager, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Here's what I think you should do. I've noticed this as I clean the building." And I went, "Brilliant idea." That was the equivalent of subconscious. Here we have people whose job it is not to increase our market share. But that janitor saw things and saw ideas and came to me with a brilliant idea that probably added 2 to 5 points of that 25 points that we were trying to get. And the market research team came to me and said, "We should do this." And what ended up happening is, because it became our dominant thought, not one of 5 thoughts, but it was the dominant thought, then everyone in the organization became part of the subconscious, and we were all working on it, and everyone came forward with things. So what ends up happening is solutions come forward that you wouldn't have even thought of, or you wouldn't have thought possible in the past. And sometimes it's not a solution that you didn't think of. Sometimes it's a way to achieve a solution that you would never have thought of or even dreamed to be possible. As I said, this especially works when you're working with a team, because they can make things happen. Other people's brains function differently than yours, and you're seeing limitations. Other people see opportunity. Okay. So let's talk about keys to making this work. Number 1, you need to clearly define both the goal and the parameters. Remember, we talked about a SMART goal. And so it's something specific to be done by a certain day, and it's actionable and relevant and timely and all those kinds of things. Okay. So you need to not only come up with the thing that you're going to achieve, but the parameters that are acceptable around that. For example, let's go back to that list build, add 5,000 people by an X date. You need to say that the people on that list need to be these types of people, because I can guarantee you, I can grow anybody's list by $5,000 in a matter of days. I can just go buy traffic from people in India, Bangladesh, whatever, and add 5,000 people onto your list very quickly, almost none of whom will be buyers of your product that is only available for sale in America or Britain or someplace like that. Okay. So there are things that are possible to achieve goals that are outside of your acceptable parameters. You need to define your acceptable parameters in this. Number 2, take action that actively demonstrates the commitment both to your team and to yourself. So, for example, meetings to work on it. So let's say our goal is list building. Okay. All right. So then you need to hold a meeting once a week to work on list building, or an offsite or whatever. And if it's just you, me, myself, and I in my company, that's fine. I can have a meeting at 9:00 on Monday to go work on this. And maybe every Monday at 9:00, I'm going to work on this, and it becomes a meeting that I've scheduled on my calendar and will not break, because this is our one goal right now, to achieve this list build. And I'm going to have meetings with myself until that happens, or I'm going to have meetings with my team, or I'm going to have 10 meetings with different groups of people from the team to make this thing happen. Next, rewards for achievement. This is part of this process of showing commitment to make it happen. Okay, this is what is going to happen when we achieve this goal. Now, that doesn't have to be like a huge bonus or something like that. I have literally watched an entire factory change their systems and achieve a significantly higher level of higher level of waste reduction. So I realize the goal was we need to reduce waste. And so we set a goal, we had very specific, and the reward was I, the brand manager, who didn't work with them every day, would come in, would fly in, and I would cook steaks for everyone for all 3 shifts. So that meant for 24 hours, every 6 hours, I went back on shift to cook for them. Myself and the manager of the factory had steak dinner for everybody, and it was a huge hit. Just this promise of steak dinner for everyone caused them to create systems that reduced that waste by that large amount, and we saved millions as a result of having a steak dinner. So it doesn't necessarily have to be huge. It needs to be motivational. That's the key. Next, you need to make sacrifices to achieve. So you may have this goal that you've made, but you've got these personal things on the side that you also want to achieve. You may have to sacrifice some of those personal things to achieve so that you can achieve this goal. You may have to actually pay some people. You may have to hire somebody. You may have to bring in a consultant. You may have to do all kinds of things to make it so that you can make this one major goal be achieved. Next, you need to make sure that supportive actions that must happen for that goal to be achieved can and will happen. So a great example, in that case where I talked about achieving growth in our market share, we had to get this team over here to do X, and they had to be able to do that. Unfortunately, that cost $500,000 for them to be able to do that. But if that didn't happen, we wouldn't achieve this. And so we had to approve $500,000 in spending, knowing that the increase in market share would well pay for that $500,000. But we had to do this long before that could happen. So those supportive actions need to happen. And it may be giving people extra time to do something by taking things off their plate. Whatever those supportive actions are, you need to make those happen. Next, you need to have communications processes. So this happens if it's just you. You need to be actively communicating with yourself because it's got to become the dominant thought. It's got to be there in your brain on a regular basis. So here's this Post-it note that goes up on my screen. Every night as I go to bed, I put it on my screen. And so that when I wake up in the morning, there it is. Oh, yes, I need to be working on list growth. And so then I take it off. I never put it back on my desk. I put it on my other screen over here. So every time I look over there, oh, there it is. Oh, that's right. I need to be working on my, and so whatever that communication process is, if it's a team, you need to be regularly talking about it. Every single staff meeting, every single day, there's something that happens that focuses on that, and involve everyone in this. So again, if it's a small company, you may want to get your partner and your kids actually working on this also. You may want to get your outsourcers working on this. You may want to get a friend to send you an email once a week saying, how you doing on that thing? You may want to call your coach and say, this is the thing I'm working on. Make sure we talk about this in every single conversation we have. If it's a team, then make sure that everyone on the team, including that janitor who came up with that amazing idea, is actively working on it. Number 3, visibly track your progress towards this goal. There's a reason why the fundraising process came up with that thermometer, that's growing up, and you color it in as you go higher and higher on that. There's a reason why we do that, because it works. You can, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to be visibly tracking progress so that you and every person on your team can see that progress is occurring. Number 4, you need to build systems to maintain this so it doesn't become just a one-time thing. So if we're working on cost reduction, for example, you can't just return a big purchase and get $10,000 from that. You have to actually develop systems that permanently reduce the cost by that amount so that it's maintained, because achievement is nothing if it's not repeatable. Then you're going to have to do the exact same goal again in 3 months because you did it once, but you have to keep doing it again. And so the focus on this is not just achieving the goal, it's building the systems so the goal is permanent. Number 5, be willing to make changes and be creative. One time I worked for a publishing company. This publishing company loved to save costs on the covers of the books. And so the covers of the books tended to be 1 or 2 colors because it cost more to do like a picture. in the printing process, okay? It'd be 1 or 2 colors on the cover of the book, which meant that by definition, every one of the covers of every one of the books they published was ugly. And ugly doesn't sell. And so I came in as marketing director, and the first thing I did is I put my foot down and I said, we will do a four color cover. In other words, a full picture on every single book we produce this year. Now, that took changes. I had to talk the publisher into this, and it took quite a bit of time because this publisher felt very proud of the book covers they'd been producing and felt like they had done a great job with 1 or 2 colors to make those book covers look great. And it's like, that's true. You've done as good a job as you possibly could with 1 or 2 colors to make that cover look good, but it will never beat another book with a 4-color picture on the front sitting right next to it. They're always going to buy that other book. We need to get there. And we had to get creative. We had to make changes. And that publisher has come to me a number of times and said, the best year that we ever had in sales was the year that you were our marketing director. To which I would always reply, and the reason why is because we went to 4-color covers, and right after I left, you went back to 2-color covers. That is the reason. That was the best year in sales ever. And a great example of not making it permanent, by the way, and look what ended up happening. Okay, number 6, when you achieve that goal, celebrate. Then rest for a bit, a week or 2. And then go on to the next goal and do the same thing with the next goal. Now, it may sound like this whole process is only for people who have big teams. No, if it's just you, every single thing I just talked about can be done with me, myself, and I. And it should be done with me, myself, and I, because that's the thing that enables you to be able to hire the more people and go on from there. You need to follow all 6 of these steps so that you can achieve this in your own life, in your own business. Focus on one thing, not 5, not 10, not 3, one thing at a time. Get that done, make it permanent, and then go on. What's the one goal you're working on right now? Let me know in the comments. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.